Hi, what's happening? Welcome to Major TV. So Jurgen Klopp has done his press conference. He's finally spoken to the media in the aftermath of the PGMOL releasing the VAR audio from the absolute Luis Diaz offside debacle from the Tottenham Hotspur game at the weekend. And look, ultimately, the biggest key takeaway from it, the key sentiment is that Klopp says, I think there should be a replay. Now, if you haven't seen the full press conference or listened to the full audio of it, I highly recommend that you do, first and foremost, because what we've seen naturally is it boiled down to the headlines. Klopp wants a replay. And then, of course, people then react to the headline. And the headline is fairly incendiary because, you know, look, ultimately it's a manager of a Premier League football team, when you read it that way, demanding that a game of football that his team lost be replayed. I kind of want to talk through this. I'm not 100% set on my opinion on this, and I'm going to kind of talk through my thought processes on it. Feel free to interact with me in the comments underneath, by the way, on any of this. But kind of hold to the end, because this is very fluid. I have watched the full press conference to make sure that because I think it's important to gauge tone. And I thought Jurgen conducted himself really well. I think he's conducted himself brilliantly since the final whistle of the football match, when this is a very heated, emotional man at times. We've seen him get into all kinds of troubles, but for speaking out on things. And that was, I called it at the weekend the single worst refereed football match of all time. And I haven't changed my opinion on that, because not just the obviously offside decision, which is horrendous, because and it's because Jurgen kept calling it unprecedented, and there are several other similarly unprecedented refereeing and VAR mistakes, but nothing that's quite like this, particularly in the context of the game that followed. But in addition, there were and he mentioned this, there's so many just really, really bad refereeing decisions. Now, lots of these are subjective calls, but the thing that made this the most interesting, of course, is that offside is a binary thing. You're onside or you're offside. Now, you might think, because we're kind of led to believe that lots of other decisions in football are binary too. So it's handball or it's not handball. It's a red card or it's not a red card, or it's not a foul, it's a foul. It's a yellow card, it's a red card. But most decisions in football are subjective. They are coloured by your emotional state, by your angle of view, by the environment in which you consumed that. Your experience, your level of understanding, your understanding of the rules. There's a million factors. You could blink at a vital moment. It's just a human thing, and it means that you miss a fractional microsecond or something that could be absolutely pivotal in making a more accurate call on it. Part of the beauty of football is the fact that there's 22 people running around, and basically almost anything can happen, even within a framework and the rule set of association football. The VAR stuff is madness. It's absolute madness, because effectively the thing that stopped Liverpool from having a goal when down to 10 men was the VAR refused to tell the referee, having made the mistake, that he'd made the mistake and it was a goal, and therefore made it, although they knew it was a goal, refused to communicate that, and therefore it meant that Liverpool were legitimately robbed of a goal. And we have lots of these robbed. It's a very emotive term. People think I've learned a very important lesson in this last few days. I had no idea there were a generation of Tottenham Hotspur fans who thought they would have won the Champions League final in Madrid if it wasn't for the handball decision, for the penalty in the first couple of minutes, which is wild to me. Wild. Jan Vertonghen's apparently is happy to come back and play that again. Bring it on, Jan Vertonghen. Honestly, bring them all back. I don't think Jan Vertonghen's looked at Tottenham Hotspur's team. Danny Rose versus Mohamed Salah, anyone? Yeah, let's have that replay too. In fact, if you want Liverpool to replay every game that season with exactly the same players, they'll smash them all. They'll smash everyone up, because that team would still be brilliant. By the by. So back to the whole replay thing. And Jurgen says this, by the way, which is another thing that's been overlooked, because the obvious retort to this, and I'm seeing this a lot from journalists, is it potentially sets a precedent and it may be open to can of worms to, well, what happens if the next mistake is made? Does that mean that games are going to be getting replayed willy-nilly? Maybe, probably not. There's definitely needs to be a protocol for exceptional circumstances, which I think this falls under. And I mean, look, ultimately the point is, if this then happens again, there's no way that the VAR doesn't tell the referee and then they just stop the game and go, shit, sorry, we shouldn't have taken that free kick, let's roll it back a minute, or 30 seconds, or 5 seconds, or 7 seconds. The protocol becomes in place. No one wants to make that mistake again, so that mistake doesn't make again. It's a bit like, I think it was Frank Miller spoke about the comic book industry and said, whenever someone breaks into the comic book industry makes a point of papering it over and sealing it up so no one else can break in that way again. And think of it kind of that way. Once you break the rules get put in place to stop those kind of things happening again. But if it costs a team, and look, the problem is that we've got a tribalism around this where everyone has felt hard done by refereeing decisions. I mean, Everton have got a giant book. Every Everton fan has got an encyclopedic list in their heads of every time they've been wronged in a football match by referees of the teams, Liverpool fans, etc., etc. You can ask them, they'll reel it off. There's loads. They've got dozens and dozens and dozens of them. We've all got them. We all remember that moment when a stupid decision cost us something. I mean, again, and it kind of leads into my next point, why Liverpool would be so aggrieved by this whole situation and why I think they were so bullish in trying to challenge it. This is a team that lost out on a title twice by the most fractional of margins, by points, by goals. Jurgen Klopp missed out on promotion to the Bundesliga with Mainz by a point and by a goal in consecutive seasons. For most fans of football, you take it on the chin and you roll on because a couple of points doesn't make a great deal of difference in the grand scheme of things. But actually, in the true business end of football, that 3 points could be the difference between a league title and not a league title for Liverpool. It might be the difference between top four and not, but I think that's actually weirdly less important. You could not win a league title because a referee and a VAR and the assistant VAR refused to communicate that Liverpool had scored the goal, having made a mistake, that's not Liverpool's doing. That's not Liverpool's fault. And I get it. Again, you get into that mess of, well, when referee gets it wrong, they get it wrong. I'm all in on the idea that these people are human, by the way, and they can make mistakes. But again, subjective mistakes are different. If they saw it as that, so like, for example, if there was no VAR and the linesman flagged, we'd have all got on with it. But literally, there's people in a room proved that it was onside. They said it's onside, it's a goal, but then got confused, and that's where the mistake made. But it was an easily rectifiable one, and they chose not to. And look, I'm not getting sucked into the conspiracy side of thing, but if you told me down the line that it came out that Darren England had been on the take, that would be the perfect evidence to show it. Let's not cover that today. So again, back to the replay thing. If this was Manchester United, if this has happened to Man United, I would be quite gleefully reveling in it too. I'm not sure that I would be able to put like a level-headed response out. I think it was quite funny, and I wouldn't be up for them trying to find a way to get more points. In terms of a pure wild footballing thing, does it have a dramatic impact on the game? Yeah, because Liverpool have just gone down to 10 men. It's the go-ahead goal. They'd be 1-0 up. And then they don't score that and they go 1-0 down. And ultimately, Liverpool go in at the half level. They go in at 1-1 because they managed to fight their way back into it. And then obviously you've got a chain of events and lots of dreadful refereeing decisions that then continue to impact it, which I think colours it. But it's such a key pivotal moment in the game that it changes the entire complex of the football match. And listen, for better or for worse, there's nothing to say that Liverpool would win that game having gone 1-up. There's nothing to say that. Butterfly effect. Tottenham could go on and win that 4-1 because it galvanises them. Let's not mess around. Let's go and put Liverpool to the sword. That might happen. But the point is, you'll never know. And it's not a silly little thing. It's not the referee saw it one way. Oh, well, look, ultimately it's his choice to do that. They put the system in place to safeguard against things. The system's failed. if replay is a thing, I'm not against the idea. What I am against, by the way, is the fallout from this. Is the most British response ever. One of the biggest failings of this country and the people that reside within it, and its press and its media and people with platforms, is that we are so good at moaning about things being wrong. We live for the whinge, the whine, the complaint, but we are dreadful at actually trying to change those things so they don't happen again. We are rubbish at that. I'm sure maybe you're this person, or you've got friends who they complain about something. Okay, cool, let's fix it. Well, no, I don't want to actually. I really, I just want to have a bit of it. I just want to have a bit of gripe about it. I just want to complain about it for a bit. I haven't really got the time. I can't be bothered to go through the effort to sort it all out. Well, listen, as a parent, the path of least resistance generally ends up with you in a much worse situation. It's like control crying, horrendous things have to do with your kids, and you only ever really feel that you need to do it when you're on absolute breaking point, when it's gotten worse and worse and worse and worse, you're getting less and less sleep, you've got nothing left, you're a shell of a human being, and that's when you need to tackle and step up, and it gets harder for 3 or 4 days sometimes, but after that it gets better. But to actually go from zero when you've got nothing more to give to a situation, and then to try and make an effort to change it, is a very difficult thing. And it's a perfect example. You've got lots of people I think have looked at it going, well, it was the weekend now. Come on, it's been days. They've not really sorted out. There's another round of football coming now. Can we not just kind of focus on that? Do we really have to go through the level of sympathy for Liverpool which existed post-match? Was dried up because the news cycle moves on. Everyone gets on with life, and no one really gives a fuck that Liverpool have been hard done by. Because, let's be honest, maybe you do have to be a Liverpool fan, or you have to be a staunch, neutral football fan to be able to really care about this. And the problem is they don't exist. Gary Neville, as much as he tries to be this sort of bipartisan, no, I'm a pundit, I'm neutral, here's my neutral analysis, it's bollocks. He's a Manchester United fan, he's a dyed-in-the-wool Man United fan, and deep down he wants Liverpool to suffer. He just does, whether he admits it or not. And I'm looking for the flip reverse exactly the same as that. So I don't know whether there should be a replay, but I don't think it's as wild a shout as being made out. And does it open a can of worms? Yeah, maybe. Does it mean that it means the VAR's got to get better? Yeah, look, they're paying 4 extra guys. One thing I took from that audio, what is the point? That looks like and sounds like an absolutely horrendous job. They can't hold in, still holding, hold on. It sounds exhausting being in the VAR. It sounds like a lot of effort for very little ultimate reward, except the fact that there's now 4 more referees getting paid to officiate every football game, which from the PGMOL stakes is great. More of their mates getting more money, great for them. I don't know. If it was replayed, I'd probably think it was ultimately fair. When would you replay it? I don't know. Maybe just play it as the last game of the season or something. I'm not sure it's something I'm going to go to the picket lines for, and I don't think it's something that will happen. But I honestly don't think it's anywhere near as outlandish a shout as it's being made out. And again, there are other unprecedented situations, and I'm sure people will be naming them in the comments underneath. But it'd be interesting to know, well, maybe if someone had fought and stood up, then we wouldn't be in the situation now. Because if these clubs had gone, right, no, we're not having this, we're going to contest it, maybe the VAR would have been forced into action and we wouldn't have continued shit shows from them. I don't know. Feels like the standard of officiating is getting worse in this country, and everyone just seems to go, well, it's fine. And yet they constantly change it. Why aren't they changing it for the better? They keep changing it for the worse. Maybe someone should actually get a grip on them for a change. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think a replay would be a reasonable thing to do in this situation? Let me know in the comments below. Loads more discussion on this. Do go and try out redmenplus.com if you haven't already. Dan has been speaking to a FIFA referee about it, and obviously there's lots of other stuff. Liverpool takeover, or investment stakes. Union Saint-Gilloise is going to be happening later on today. I'm going to be going to that. Great stuff. redmenplus.com. I highly recommend it to get you closer. Neil Jones, Geno Insight, all that stuff. There's loads. Just go and have a look. Thank you so much for joining me for this rather impromptu, free-flowing thought session. And I'll see you all soon. Up the Reds.